Federal government, states and local government councils share 903.48 billion naira from a gross total of 1.594 trillion naira for September 2023. President receives quick win report. Federal government issues 94 import licenses to oil marketers. Plus, oil deep says economic concerns offset Middle East supply worries. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Let's bring you up to speed with business. The Federation Account Allocation Committee FAC at its meeting chaired by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, shared a total sum of 903.48 billion naira to the 3 tiers of government as Federation allocation for the month of September 2023. From the stated amount, inclusive of gross statutory revenue, value-added tax, electronic money transfer levy, and exchange difference, the federal government received 320.54 trillion billion naira. The states received 287.071 billion naira. The local government councils got 210.90 billion naira, while the oil producing states received 84.966 billion naira as derivation of mineral revenue. The communique issued by the Federation Account Allocation Committee disclosed that the sum of 54.436 billion naira was given to cost of collection, 347.857 billion naira allocated to transfers and refunds, while the sum of 289 billion naira was transferred to non-oil revenue for the month of September 2023. The communique also noted that the petroleum profit tax and oil and gas royalties increased considerably, while value-added tax, import and excise duties, electronic money transfer levy, companies' income tax, and custom external tariff levies recorded significant decreases. The balance in the excess crude account as at October 24, 2023 stands at $473,754.57. Now, finance institutions are supporting the federal government's plan to close the infrastructural gap estimated at more than $100 billion every year to create an enabling environment for socio-economic activities. To this end, the Ministry of Finance is partnering finance institutions such as Bank of Infrastructure through public-private partnership to invest 1 trillion naira in 5 years to deliver a state-of-the-art infrastructure for Nigerians.
Everybody knows the government is committed to the issue of diversification and increase in investment revenue generation in the country.
We are excited about the president's ambition for this country. Our medium-term goal is to bring in the neighborhood of 1 trillion in the medium term to bridge the infrastructure deficit in the country. This 1 trillion is coming in largely from private sector.
We know that the only way a country can move forward is through the level of its infrastructure. And we believe strongly that with the new government and the new economy that is coming forth, that infrastructure will play a key role in the development of Nigeria.
Now, in recent years, Nigeria's economy has witnessed significant transformation, fueled by a series of policies and reforms aimed at driving growth across various sectors. To sustain this transformation, experts call for more synergy between private financial institutions and the government. This came to the fore at the two-day of the 29th Nigerian Economic Summit under the theme of Finance and Economic Transformation. Nekako reports.
Collaboration between private financial institutions and the government has proven to be a catalyst for sustainable economic growth. The session notes that with the right policies and incentives, private financial institutions can play an important role in financing the country's economic transformation.
If you look at the National Development Plan, 80% of the budget we're anticipating from the private sector, while the government budget takes care of the rest. And on the government side, we've been doing some bonds to fund the infrastructure. On tax credit alone, we have it has taken over 3 trillion naira in the few years we have started it.
Although the federal government has committed significant resources to financing the country's economic transformation, experts, however, emphasize the need for the country to harness the untapped potential of its various sectors to unlock their immense productive capacities.
There are some sectors that can basically help to catalyze additional financing. There are some what we call critical sectors. So your energy sector, your health sector, your transport sector, and there was one suggestion around, even having executive orders that would support road construction and road maintenance because of how important it is to Nigeria's GDP.
Discussions around strengthening the infrastructure development financing atmosphere also took center stage during the deliberations. In Abuja, Neka Oko.
Now, similarly, Bosede Abel reports that submissions at day 2 of the Economic Summit also laid emphasis on collaboration, fiscal responsibility, and innovation as factors needed to accelerate the sustainable development goals.
Conversations here reveal a slow growth of 15% of the Sustainable Development Goals have been achieved globally. Reason being the devastating effect of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, while for Nigeria, about 18 states have so far domesticated the SDG goals with the hope of catching up with the medium-term plan 2021-2025.
One of the schemes we should be looking at is one that ties to access within the local communities in which we operate and the ability for us to use funding to support that access.
Without education, we can eradicate poverty. And of course, to see how the local investors will invest and what attracting foreign investors.
With the attainment of the SDGs still in sight, the United Nations says a whopping $10 billion funding gap is needed annually, and stakeholders are of the view that an integrated financing solution, in addition to adopting reforms that will foster inclusion and sustainable growth, are needed to speed up the process.
On the global level, they're also thinking about high-impact initiatives that can be cross-cutting to impact with poverty, hunger, gender, and many SDGs. And to really push on those so that we can make a significant effort before 2030.
I think that one of the biggest opportunities we have is health, making sure that people are healthy. Next would be education.
On human capital development, stakeholders believe if both the public and private sectors can come together through partnership, a lot can be achieved. In Abuja, Bosede Abel.
Now, still on Nigerian Economic Summit 29, Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, says his core agenda is to open up marine and blue economy to private investments, public-private partnerships. The minister stated this at the 29th Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja. The session theme, Sailing to Success, harnessing Nigeria's maritime potential. The minister reiterated the ministry's commitment to fixing some of the challenges confronting the nation's marine and blue economy and opening up the sector to private investments and public-private partnerships. He noted that just as the country has witnessed the transformation in the telecoms and power sectors through private sector participation, he believes that the enabling private sector investment is key to unlocking Nigeria's economic potential in the marine and blue economy sector. He also spoke of government's readiness to enhance efficiency at the ports and facilitate the establishment of private sector-led maritime development zones for the co-location of ancillary services such as wreck removal, wreck recycling, ship building, ship repairs, amongst others. Now to speak more on the issues raised at the just concluded 29th Nigerian Economic Summit is Ozofo Latunde Ogemudia. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I understand that you're at part of a subcommittee or subcommittee chair of the 29th Nigerian Economic Summit.
Yes, I chaired the technical subcommittee, which was the committee that put together the theme, the program, and identified the speakers for the summit.
Okay, beautiful. Well, now let's delve into it. Nigeria just witnessed the 29th edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit. Can you take us through the journey so far and possible impacts over time?
Yeah, thank you very much. So the journey so far has been, for this particular summit, it's quite unique for us because it's the first summit that we've organized with this administration. As you know, the summit is a collaboration with the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. So while preparations for the summit start a year in advance, we needed to watch and hear from the president and the government, the various levels of government, what the agenda is, the economic agenda, the social and inclusive agenda, and we wove that into framing the summit so that we're not just, while we're identifying the issues that the country is grappling with, we're also working with the government to advise on how best to implement the steps they want to take to turn around the economy and all the other social issues that the country is facing. And the NESG, through the summit, has had a history of partnership with the public sector and implementation of some of the discussions that have been made in the summit. And we're very optimistic that this first level engagement with the government is going to lead to similar implementation initiatives and results that are measurable and that can be tracked between now and the next summit.
Pathways to sustainable economic transformation and inclusion was the central theme for this year. And we all witnessed robust presentations on the issues, prospects and possible partnerships. What should we expect in terms of going beyond talk shops?
Okay, so like I said, there's been, at the NESG, what we're interested in not just talking, or making sure that there's a track record of implementation and that we can look back and see what steps have been taken, concrete steps. And so, for instance, we have quite a number of legislative reforms that the NESG has been able to partner with previous governments on, such as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018, the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Petroleum Industry Act, and more recently, the Arbitration and Mediation Act. One of the key events, the plenary sessions at the summit, was the launch of the Ernest Shonekan Center for Legislative Reforms on Economic Development. And that center continues the work of the National Assembly Business Environment Roundtable, the State Assembly's Business Environment Roundtable, and the Judiciary Capacity Initiatives of the NESG, and brings them all together in one policy center that will focus on working in partnership with the National Assembly and the state's houses of assembly, as well as the judiciary, to build capacity, to advise on legislation and to work to improve the quality of policies and legislation that affect the business environment. So that's just one example. There were a few sessions that focused on agriculture and food security, which are part of the government's 8-point agenda. And the focus here is to empower other sectors of the economy and lead to tangible growth that has bottom-up social impact to improve the lives of Nigerians.
Okay, you mentioned tangible fruits. You said, how far is the handshake between private and public sector going in actualizing recommendations coming from the summit?
Yes, I think it will go far. So what we're going to do now is review the reports of the sessions at the summit, distill that into key outcomes, and then how the steps to implement these outcomes. Like I said, the summit was organized with the Ministry of Budget. We had several ministers also come and speak on their portfolio and their focus areas for their ministry. We have engagement with the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. So what we intend to do through working through the the NESG's 45 policy commissions and communities of practice, there will be a year-long engagement into steps for implementation, into further discussions, into actualizing these steps. Because what we want to do when we come back for the next summit is to be able to demonstrate actions that have actually been taken to implement what we discussed today, so that it's not just all talk and no action that follows, but we're very focused on implementation. I'll also add that part of the focus on the summit was subnationals, collaboration between states to deliver security that builds investors' confidence to invest in states and to work across states to build businesses and to increase the internally generated revenue for states. So we're also going to be working closely with the National Governors Forum and states to advise on how they also implement the things they've discussed in the summit, security being one of the main things.
Okay, we have a new administration and there's a lot of expectation. And should the expectation of this particular summit be different for the public?
I think what the public should take away from this is the NESG has always positioned itself to work with every administration. So we are neutral as to who the party. We just want to work with the policymakers, the people that actually have the legal authority to make impact. And if you distill the sub-themes of the summit, so there is stimulating economic growth, mobilizing finance for sustainable development, and that touches on how we build investor confidence so that foreign investors that are looking for where to establish businesses on the continent begin looking to Nigeria again as a favored destination. We're also talking about human capital development, and that's really how we start from the bottom up, right from the educational system to the quality of skills that we're building in our predominantly youthful population and empowering people, the young people, so that they are not disenfranchised and looking for ways to leave the country, but that they actually see that they can build a future in Nigeria. And then we're also talking about reforming public institutions so that the service delivery of public institutions is fit for purpose and it's more user-friendly, that the process of engaging to obtain licenses and permits is not one that's arduous, that takes you months, that involves unforeseen expenses, but it's predictable and it's reliable. And then I think our last theme was promoting national cohesion and inclusion, and that's what our last two sessions at the summit focused on. How do we create a Nigeria that works for all, where people don't feel that they've been left behind and that they feel that they matter? So I think these things resonate with the public. They're what people are interested in hearing about, and hopefully what we can work with this government to deliver to the Nigerian public.
Thank you very much, Ozofo Latunde Ogi Modia. Thank you for sharing your thought with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now moving on. Oil benchmark Brent held above $88 on Wednesday as concerns about war escalating in the Middle East offset demand worries stemming from gloomy economic prospect in Europe. Brent crude futures were up 11 cents to $88.18 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 5 cents to $83.69 a barrel. Let's now see prices of other commodities. Now, Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, has restated that federal government is committed to reviving the nation's economy through its vast mineral resources. The minister made this disclosure at the second International Conference of Nigerian Society of Economic Geologists in Abuja. Alake, who was represented by the ministry's Director of Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners, Yunus Mohammed, stressed that the present administration will continue to provide all that is needed for accurate acquisition of geoscience data for the development of the sector and country's economy. Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, Dr. Abdul Razak Garba, stated that geological data is its key to development of the sector.
Presently, the mineral production in Nigeria has been very minimal, contributing to at least less than 1% of the country's GDP, despite its huge potentials. The present administration is determined to change this narrative and therefore is willing to collaborate with development partners and think tanks, such as the Nigerian Society of Economic Geologists, to promote research in mineral exploration as it relates to mining, mineral resource classification, and mineral processing.
The Nigerian government has invested significantly from the presentation you see here today, significantly on National Integrated Mineral Exploration Project. And when we made the announcement, you can see what happened in this state. A lot of investors have been going to these areas to ensure that they develop this. Recently, the Minister of Mines and Steel, the Minister of Solid Mineral Development, went to commission a processing plant in Nasarawa State.
Well, it's now time to join Bosede Abel for updates on global stock market. Bosede, what's happening?
Hello, Musa. Thank you very much for joining us on this segment of the Global Market Review. European markets were slightly higher on Wednesday amid a slew of earnings both in the US and Europe. DAX rose 0.19%, FTSE 0.35%, and CAC 40 of France also appreciated 0.14%. Markets in Asia were also up as investors accessed Australia's third quarter inflation figures, which will give clues to the Reserve Bank of Australia's monetary policy decision when it meets on November 3. Japan's Nikkei 225 top 0.67% at 31,269.92. The Shanghai Composite top 0.40% at 2,974.31. And the Hang Seng Index also top 0.55% across 17,085.33. U.S. S&P 500 futures were slightly lower in early trading Wednesday as investors digested quarterly results from tech giant Microsoft and Alphabet. Futures tied to the S&P 500 dipped 0.18%, Nasdaq 0.40%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.30% at 33,368. For Africa, Ghana closed marginally positive. Namibia overall index posted gains, while South Africa, Tunisia Tunisia topped 40, closed negative. That's the global market review. I am Bossede Abel. Over to Musa.
Well, thank you, Bossede. Business Express returns Thursday by 9:30 a.m. Have a nice day.